So many people love anime and manga because it is special, because it is unique, and because it's not more of the same. These creators took risks, they paid off, but there are a lot of individuals across the world that want to change these mediums, and it's not going to happen very easily. We've seen so many people fight back against it, and now the Evangelion creator is saying Japanese media needs to focus on domestic audiences, not overseas. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, of course, there are a lot of Japanese companies and creators who think that they need to change their work in order for it to sell in other markets, but that is just a complete and utter lie and misunderstanding, because the people that you are changing your work for will not buy it. They will not support you. They will not consume that content. And the reason why anime and manga got so popular across the world was because it was unique, because it was special, because it was different. And if you start changing that and you ignore its Japanese identity, then it just becomes more of the same. You're going to lose out on customers and you're not going to see higher profits. And now the Evangelion creator is saying that they need to refocus their efforts. While many of Japan's film, video games, and even manga studios are shifting their creative attentions towards overseas markets in the hopes of weathering the dwindling audience numbers caused by the country's ongoing birth rate crisis, the famed Neon Genesis Evangelion creator Hideaki Anno has made it clear that he is adamantly opposed to the entire idea, as he believes that the appeal of Japanese media lies specifically in its unique cultural identity. And I've talked about this so many times, but I completely and utterly agree. Anno, who many might also know as the director of Gunbuster, the 2004 live-action Cutie Honey adaptation, and most recently the Shin film trilogy, each entry a reimagining of the classic Japanese series, including Godzilla, Ultraman, Kamen Rider, voiced his disagreement with Japan's ongoing overseas turn during a recent conversation between himself, Godzilla Minus One director, and Forbes Japan regarding the current state of the country's entertainment industries. And they have behemoths here. Their entertainment industry has made them so much money. It's gained them so much popularity over the decades, and they need to refocus their efforts. They need to stop trying to appeal to Westerners. They need to stop trying to appeal to overseas markets, because all it is going to do is continue to damage them. They are no longer going to make the amount of money that they expect or that they were hoping. They're not going to see the growth, and ultimately they're going to push people away. The environment may have changed, but I myself have never created a work with overseas audiences in mind, he said. I can only make domestic things. Film companies immediately start saying overseas, overseas, but personally, that's not what I'm aiming for. Basically, I focus entirely on making things that are received in Japan, things that people here find interesting, and if overseas audiences happen to find them interesting too, I'd be grateful. That is my stance, and that is the stance of so many people and so many companies still, which is good, but it needs to be basically all of them. Look at what happened with Square Enix, for example. Look at how many of their products that were aimed towards Japanese audiences that became extremely popular overseas, like Dragon Quest or like Final Fantasy. And this is such a good thing to hear a creator saying, because this is what we need more of in the world, is people focusing on making high quality products, making entertainment products for a certain group of people, and not just saying, oh, we need to make it for as many people as possible, because when you try to appease everyone, you're really going to appease no one, and you are going to lose customers. Agreeing with his fellow Godzilla director's own philosophy, Yamazaki likewise opined, I think that the greatest weapon for works released for overseas audiences is not thinking about overseas at all, and instead pushing the domestic aspect to its limits. And yeah, even look at Godzilla Minus One. It did fantastic. I absolutely loved it. It was phenomenal. One of my favorite movies of the year, but ultimately, right, this could end up leading them to facing problems because if companies see creators saying things like this and not being on board with their big global plan, we might actually see them blacklisted. Now, these are very successful people, these are very famous people. So I don't know if it would happen, but it ultimately could. We've seen that happen even in Hollywood. There are certain individuals, whether they are creators like directors and writers, or even individuals in like the computer generated visual space that have come out previously and criticized Hollywood, and then they end up being blacklisted. That gives a work strength. If you try to match global standards, there are probably many people in Hollywood who are much better at that, yeah. Instead, I think that the strength of Japanese works that go overseas lies in things that are unusual, maybe a little bit strange, but interesting in some way. The reason Hollywood is often said to be boring lately is that formulas for how to make a hit have become so well established, resulting in the same kinds of works being made over and over again. Within that context, the question is how far you can go in making something domestic, not in the sense of content being Japanese, but something made with a Japanese sensibility. That, I think, is probably the most advantageous condition for us. And co-signing Yamazaki's point of view, Anno declared that's exactly right. And I 1000% agree. I mean, he hit the nail on the head here. At least for me, my thinking is in Japanese, and I can't do much in English beyond greetings. Works that are created through thinking in Japanese are, after all, difficult to understand except in Japanese. Film has visual and musical elements, so compared to other fields, I think that the language barrier is lower, and they even talk about video games, saying they can still be made with interactivity in mind, but when it comes to film, it's one way. Viewers' complaints don't come back to the creators, that's simply unavoidable, so you just have to trust the creator when they say, this is what's interesting. That's why I think it's fine for it to be domestic. Ghibli 2, studio founder Hayao Miyazaki, makes things domestically, and I don't think he considers overseas audiences even 1 millimeter. That kind of thing can be dealt with later. People who think about business should convert the work into a product and sell it, and that is absolutely phenomenal. I have talked so many times over the years about there being people, though, in Japan and really across the world that think this trend needs to continue, and I totally disagree with that. I mean, even a famous lawyer said just a few months ago that manga should be made under global standard. It's the only way that they're going to push their business forward, and that is such a slap in the face to millions of phenomenal Japanese creators, Japanese masterminds, and really to the intelligence of the audiences across the world that they have made so much money off of over the decades. Because if you make things under global standards, you're sanitizing it. But if you are simply translating or localizing faithfully, then you are believing that the audience is smart enough to understand these very complex themes, maybe some slightly abnormal wording. But if everything is made under global standards from the get-go, it's all going to be the same. There's not going to be violence, there's not going to be gore, there's not going to be sexual themes, there's not going to be very complex topics that are covered and touched on in these works. Everything is going to be the same. Everything's going to be really a Concord or a Forspoken. Everything's just going to be very, in my opinion, awful. And this is what we have been fighting back against for years at this point. It's why I try to protect and defend the Japanese identity and Japanese products a lot. And really, Eastern creators, whether it is in South Korea or Japan, we have seen them struggle a lot over the years with being told what they should and should not do, being told that their work is offensive, and I do not think that that is fair at all whatsoever. So I will be keeping a very close eye on this to see if there's any sort of reaction from the activists in the Western world of entertainment who very often try to bully these different creators, who try to push their worldview and their politics onto these creators. I think that they are so prestigious at this point that they probably don't care, and they would point and laugh at anybody who did that. But I think that it was summed up perfectly that Japanese media should focus on domestic audiences and overseas audiences will follow if they are interested. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.